So they're filming at Universal Studios, right? They just went down to the gift shop and got one of the little Jaws like shark toys, and they blew that up. That's what's in there.
It's time for the Cinemassacre Podcast. And now, the hosts with the most, James, Kieran, and Justin.
But first, a message from today's sponsor. The Halloween season is almost upon us, and today's sponsor fits like a glove, or should I say cape. Either way, in Stunlock Studios' latest game, become the ultimate vampire in V Rising. Rise from your grave after centuries of slumber to regain your power while rebuilding your castle to its former glory. In this open-world survival game, you'll gather resources and hunt for blood in nearby settlements to grow your strength, but make sure to avoid the vampire-destroying sunlight. Survive a world full of dangerous enemies and stalk the night solo or in co-op multiplayer. Customize your castle to show off your vampiric style and defend your domain against raids from other players. Do what it takes to become the next Dracula. Make sure to add it to your Steam wishlist and sign up for the V Rising closed beta now over at playvrising.com. Welcome back to the Cinemassacre Podcast. Let's go. Yeah, so AVGN Commodore 64 episode. What'd you think of that one?
Pretty good.
That was a ton of footage.
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest console reviews we've done in a long time. So definitely check that one out. I've been wanting to do a Commodore episode for a very, very long time because those old games are so weird. It's just, you never know what you're going to find. Like, it was kind of like, it was the Wild West of gaming because there wasn't really any, like, set standards or anything. It was just strange.
Yeah, people just making stuff. It seemed like the Street Fighter 2 was the weirdest. Like seeing that, just it's so like having to make that game work on like one button is just like, you know.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff right now. It was we just finished up that music video for Rex Viper, Eye of the Tiger Electronics.
Yeah.
Definitely check out Eye of the Tiger Electronics because that was sort of like, think of these music videos as like an extension of AVGN. It's like the music video version of a game review. So it's all about how the Tiger Electronics were the underdog to the Game Boy and how they stood up to the Game Boy. No one knows. I mean, it's just because they were cheaper, I guess. We have Monster Madness coming up. Monster Madness has been very educational for me because it's one movie from 31 countries. And what's so cool about these is that, we're posting them on the website on cinemassacre.com, which, we haven't really used the website for much lately until we started doing it.
It's coming back now. From now on, it'll be a place where you can go and see and do things.
Because these videos are too brutal for YouTube. They have gore in them and everything. So they have the movie clips. Because basically, this is Monster Madness uncompromised. It kind of reminds me of what Joe Bob Briggs did with Monster Vision, TNT's Monster Vision, because back in the 90s when I was watching, they had to be censored a lot. And now you see The Last Drive-In, and it's uncensored, and it's in HD quality.
Yeah.
So it's basically like watching the old Monster Madness videos. Like, it feels just like...
Back when they were just on your website. Like, in 2007 was the first year, I think, because that was the first year I started watching, actually. Yeah.
It really is a throwback for me, even. It just feels like just doing the old videos all over. It's 31. It's a full marathon. They're all edited with just my voice in them. Like, there's no other, shenanigans going on. It's just the voiceover and the movie clips, and that's it. And it's just really fascinating to see how each country deals with horror films. Like, every country has their own perspective. And, some of them before we go into the main review, we start up with a little bit of a history lesson before we go in. It was a huge, huge undertaking for this one. Yeah, I'm really excited about this because it might be the best Monster Madness ever.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad we got to do, we did an anime thing finally that wasn't rental reviews or one in the can that we never put out. We got to talk about a few countries that no one talks about the films of, like North Korea and Cuba and things like that.
Have you ever heard of an Egyptian horror film, let alone the Egyptian Rocky Horror Picture Show. We're going to get into some weird stuff. So just check it out. I was watching the Jaws sequels this past summer. I hadn't seen the sequels in a long time because I've just watched, the first one over and over again because it's kind of the best one,
Right.
We once did top 1 shark movies, and it's like number 1, Jaws, and we're done.
Yeah.
Then we did a top 50 shitty shark movies, which needs to be updated. We need to do like a top.
Well, now it's its own genre as sharks. You know, like what can we add to a shark? Oh, and a tornado. Oh, a octopus.
Well, the fact they
now.
did every type of, they did ghost shark, and like they got to the point where they actually did shark. And I was like, that is perfect. That is perfect.
There's also a Dracula shark.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, okay, what is the best shark movie? Like, seriously, what's the best shark movie? What do you guys think?
I don't really watch too many shark movies. I guess Jaws 1.
I've never watched Jaws.
Really?
Yeah, I've never watched. I've only seen Jaws 3.
You've never, oh my God, you've never seen the first Jaws. Okay, wow.
Yeah, anyway, I never watched it.
I gave you guys a trick question. This is totally a matter of opinion. I asked you guys, what's the best shark movie? And to be honest, you know what I think? Jaws 4.
The Revenge?
The Revenge. And here's why. Now, the best movie to feature a shark is Jaws. I don't think anyone's going to disagree. The original Jaws is the best. But that's not just a good shark movie. That's just a good movie, period. The shark actually, you don't even see the shark that much because the animatronic, it sucked. It hardly worked. So they had to make the movie good because they didn't have much of a shark. When you think of the movie Jaws, it's really a movie about these 3 guys, these 3 completely different characters. You have a fisherman, a police chief, a scientist, and all these different minds have to work together to fight the shark. And that's why it's a good movie, because it's about the people. But Jaws 4, now that's a shark movie, because that one, it's just a shark fucking shit up. I can't believe how well it held up. And I didn't realize that this was really my Jaws movie, because I was old enough at the time to be aware when this came out. I saw it as a kid, and I remember, like, to me, that was Jaws. I didn't differentiate. I wasn't like, oh, well, Jaws 1 was better. To me, it was just Jaws. You see the shark a lot in this movie, and it looks good. I mean, for what it is. It's like chomping on people, and, you would see people in its mouth a lot inside of this animatronic shark. And I also didn't realize how much the NES game borrowed from Jaws 4.
Yeah, because I remember you guys were playing it the other day on stream.
Yeah.
And Rob was telling you, oh, that's from this movie and that, because it's mostly from the 4th movie and the 1st movie, but mostly the 4th movie.
Yeah, it's really Jaws 4, the NES game, because it has the tractor device that they put on the shark. It has the little yellow submarine that the guy gets in. Sounds like a Beatles song.
Yeah, but that song is fucking weird, by the way, too. Not to, but yeah.
Yeah. But it has the shells. Believe it or not, you collect shells in the NES game. That's exactly what they do in Jaws 4. They're trying to collect shells.
Huh.
If you watch the movie again, you'll be like, holy shit, this is basically the NES game. And then they kill the shark. Well, in the original ending, they kill the shark with the point
they
at the end of the boat. They
ram him with the ship.
Yeah, until they change. Now you can't see that ending except like on YouTube, because they changed it for whatever reason. Now the shark just explodes for no reason whatsoever. And apparently, if you freeze frame it to that one shot of when the shark blows up, they're filming at Universal Studios, right? They just went down to the gift shop and got one of the little Jaws like shark toys, and they blew that up. That's what's in there. Oh. And here's something really interesting. I actually got to see, I figured out all these years, I think I figured out what it was I got to see the Jaws 4 shark up close, like at point blank, and actually moving, like the animatronics working. Oh. A long time ago, this must have been like 89 or something like that, late 80s, It was at the Franklin Institute, I think, and they brought like some movie props. Apparently, the Queen alien was there too.
Oh shit! Oh.
And why the hell I don't remember that? I just hate myself for. But that's all right because I was just a little kid. So my dad took me there, and I just remember seeing the shark and like it being pretty scary actually. And now I think back to that, I'm like, wow, holy shit! I saw a shark from a Jaws movie. In action, like it was actually moving. They would turn it on every once in a while, and it would just, move its jaws. And at that time, I think they just said the shark from Jaws. That's why there was a lot of confusion because I felt like, because none of the sharks from the original Jaws survived.
Mm-hmm. Bruce or whatever.
Yeah, the only thing that did survive, there was a one shark made from one. Because they made 3 sharks from the movie, and then a 4th one was just like a prop that they just used for theme parks or whatever. It was made from the same mold, and that one ended up in a junkyard for a long time. And then recently, they got it back. They restored it. Actually, Greg Nicotero, I think, helped restore it, and it's in a museum in LA somewhere. There's that. Now I think it makes a lot of sense. I saw the shark from Jaws 4 because that's the only thing that it could have been, and that shark went into like the back lot at Universal. I think you could see it actually for like a while, and now it's gone. Now they just like hauled it off, and it just deteriorated on the back lot. But I saw it when it was still fresh and it was moving. Now here's something really funny. I was in Frontier Town with my family not too long ago in Maryland. It's like kind of like an Old West kind of theme, like town. I went there as a kid one time. But anyway, they have a shark there that they claim is the shark from Jaws. It just says, like there's a sign in the front that says, this is an actual prop from the movie Jaws. It's clearly not, because there's no way it could be. And when you look at it, it was never an animatronic. It's just like a cement, like just shark. There's no way it will never move. Yeah, I mean, just look, if you ever see it for yourself, there's no way that is true. It's completely, it's complete false advertisement. And you know what else? They say on the same sign, Jaws was from 2000. We all know it was 75 or 76, 75, I think.
Did they mean Deep Blue Sea?
Well, I don't know, because it said
maybe
they said in here. Let me read the thing. Here, I have a picture.
Deep
of it.
Blue Sea was 2000, wasn't it?
A shark ate me. A motherfucking shark ate me. Drink, bitch.
I'm gonna drink.
Yeah. So I have a picture of this somewhere. Let me find it. It says it was the summer of 2000 when a great white man-eating shark called Jaws came to town, and so. That seems to be implying
it came to town?
Yeah. So maybe the movie Jaws took place in 2000?
I don't think so.
No. They, on any account, they are mistaken, but wow, it's like you couldn't get it more wrong if you tried.
Was there like Jaws 2000?
Like Dracula
2000? Maybe that shark was in a movie, but it was Jaws 2000. So 31.5-foot-long great white shark was an actual working prop used in the filming of Paramount Pictures' Jaws. That is a bunch of bullshit. Here's a picture of it, by the way. I mean, this is a picture I took.
That's fucking bullshit. That looks like something that hangs out on the Jersey Shore.
It looks awful.
Yeah, I got pictures of my kids like playing on it, I mean, they could have freshly painted it, but you look at it up close. There's no way it was used in the movie. It's not an animatronic. They wouldn't have even built the bottom. It would be like rods and shit.
Was there could have been used for like marketing campaign? Did they re-release the movie in 2000?
Maybe some guy just went to that town and was like, I got this shark from the movie Jaws for $5,000 if you want to buy it.
It actually says like it was an actual working prop.
Is
from
it
Jaws.
spelled correctly? It's like GAWS. Like
so anyway, if you want to get a picture of the fake shark from Jaws, go to Frontier Town.
And speaking of Paramount ruining everything, in the last episode you talked about redoing Star Wars, and I talked about being a Star Trek fan. and how angry I am at current Star Trek. And I was talking to Mike and Ryan the other day. They're big Star Trek fans. And they figured out that there's more Star Trek shows in production nowadays than have ever existed previously.
Wow.
Because you originally had the original series and the animated show. Then you had The Next Generation 18 years later. So that's 3 if you want to call it that. Though the animated doesn't really count. Then you have Deep Space Nine. Then you have Voyager.
What about Enterprise?
And Enterprise. So you have 6.
Now, what about Discovery and all that kind of stuff?
That's the new one. So in New Trek, after J.J. Abrams decided to use Star Trek as a launching point to also ruin Star Wars, so you had the 3 movies, 2009, Into Darkness, and Beyond. Beyond's okay. The rest are bleh. Yeah, so now you have Discovery, you have Picard, you have Short Treks, you have Lower Decks, you have Prodigy that's coming out, you have Brave New Worlds, and there's some other stuff coming out. But these are all shows going on at the same time, and they're all on Paramount Plus, and they're all being show run by Alex Kurtzman, and it.
I watched a little of Picard because Picard's my favorite character in all of Star Trek. I mean, him and Data, it's tough, but like I and they're both in the show, so it hooked me. But aside from like one scene, I didn't see anything else of Data, and like I didn't get very far, to be honest.
You missed the assisted suicide at the end with Data. That's a shame.
I didn't get very far because at a certain point I know Riker shows up eventually.
He makes pizza.
But I was just waiting, and like it seemed like it was off to such a slow start. And with me, with TV, like it needs to be good from the beginning. It's very hard for me to sit through like a whole show if I'm like, well, maybe it'll get good later.
It doesn't
it's a commitment.
Feel like Star Trek. I watched the first few episodes of Picard with you guys, and I didn't feel like I was watching a Star Trek show. Felt like I was watching a show, but like it could be anything. It didn't have to be Star Trek. It could have been literally.
Discovery kind of became, I don't want to say Game of Thrones in space, but it became very adult for the sake of just doing it, you know?
I'm going to make 2 new shows. One is about people that go on a long journey where they fight a war the whole time. It's Trek Wars. And then I'm going to make another one called Star.
Trek. Well, I was wanting to make a Star Trek and Star Wars crossover called Trek Wars.
Trek Wars.
Yeah.
And Star.
Well, that's why
it's about a star that goes around the other stars and flies across.
It's like
the
Shark.
Yeah.
So what basically ended up happening is the best Star Trek movie to come out after Star Trek 6 is fucking Galaxy Quest. Which I reviewed the other day on Hack the Movies.
Is that the movie with Tim Allen?
Oh yeah,
it's
good. And the best Star Trek show nowadays is the fucking Orville.
Yeah, the Orville's great.
Seth MacFarlane.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what it's come down to. The parodies are better.
Yaphet in it. Rest in peace, Norm McFucking-Donald. What the hell? Like, I can't even believe that. Yeah, that's honestly like one of the roughest ones. Like, now, of course, we're at that age where, man, Norm Macdonald, like that was really rough.
I am glad we got to review Dirty Work on Rental Reviews. I love that movie. Yeah, so Star Trek is now a disaster, and I've been talking about for a while how I want to do Star Trek in 100, which is the 100 hours of Star Trek from the 4 main shows and including some of the movies into a concisive
I'd like
the best of the best.
I don't really want to care to be in that, but I'd love to watch it. So.
I thought about doing a video on it too, but yeah, it'd be cool for you to get involved in it, explain, I don't know how long it would be, but I've been working on spreadsheets for a while now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, it just sounds like something I like to watch because it's like, how do you condense all of Star Trek how do you get a newcomer into Star Trek? It's an interesting kind of
That's
topic,
the concept, because when we were shooting the other day, Crystal, who films with us, was like, I've never really watched Star Trek, and I love Galaxy Quest. Like, how do I get into it? Mm-hmm. Do I watch some of the new shows that are coming out now? And I'm like, no. And I'm not sure you're really going to dig some, like, if you start with the original series, like, there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I would think, I haven't seen what you're putting together yet, but I would say, like, see the best episodes of the original series, not all of them, just like a handful of the original series.
I have
and then
7 of them in there.
Okay,
but,
cool.
You know, because you got to know who the Romulans are. You got to know who the Vulcans are. You got to know who all the races are, who all the characters are. To get ready, because you know I have like 4 of the movies in there.
Yeah.
You know, you got to have Star Trek 2, 3, because Spock has to be alive. 4 and 6, they're the best ones.
So
but then you got to get to Next Generation as quick as possible. I think. I think the original is like you need to see it because it's the classic one. It's the one that got the whole thing started. But Next Generation, I think, is where it got really good.
Out of 100 hours, the first 14 are original series, as of right now.
Okay.
The big, huge problem, and I might need help on this from anyone, Deep Space Nine, because it's like a war serialized kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where each episode connects to the last one. There's 9-part episodes in that. You just can't cut shit.
Yeah,
or you won't know what the fuck's going on.
I actually started watching Deep Space Nine. I'm very, very slowly progressing, and I know it's like everybody tells me it's really, really good, but it takes so much time, and it's a commitment. Build up. Yeah, and like I'm halfway through the first season, but it's like sometimes I sit there and I'm like clicking through the episodes just to see like how many are coming up. I'm like, oh my God, this is like so many hours to put in. Like this is a serious commitment. Like you could take some kind of class and graduate in the time it takes to watch.
Yeah, whereas Voyager is easy because they kind of go back to Monster of the Week episodes. There's some plot things and some really good two-parters here and there. But
I liked Voyager. I got into that one in the late 90s. Like
Voyager's the one I grew up with.
Yeah.
Because TNG was out when I was a kid and stuff.
Yeah, my brother-in-law and my sister were huge fans of Next Generation, and then they would watch Voyager every week, and then also Next Generation was still on TV. I know. What year did it end though? Wasn't that like
93?
Yeah, because it used to still be on syndication all the time, and they would never miss an episode.
There was a time where DS9 was going on when TNG was, and Voyager was going on when DS9 was happening.
Yeah, I remember too. Like The Rock was on Voyager, and there was an episode where like basically they had to fight like the Predator, kind of.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Predator, but it was basically the Predator. It was like a monster that was hunting people and invisible, kind of. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I also had a crush on B'Elanna Torres.
Oh, the engineer.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So the 55th anniversary just happened. They released. I love when they release all the trailers of the last 55 years of Star Trek, and 80% of the clips are from the new shows.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, that's nice. Great job, everybody. But yeah, I guess speaking of old computers no one cares about anymore and movies no one remembers, let's talk about Atlantis.
Do we want to go into that now?
Yeah,
okay, all right. So let me ask you guys a question. Let me see. Should I do that again?
Yeah. You did it last time. You got to do it again.
Okay. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Do you believe in UFOs, astral projections, mental telepathy, ESP, clairvoyance, spirit photography, telekinetic movement, full trance mediums, the Loch Ness Monster, and the theory of Atlantis?
As long as there's a paycheck, I'll believe anything you want.
And this begins our segment of Is It Fucking Real? Here we go. So Atlantis, what do you guys think? Real or not?
No? You mean the lost city of Atlantis, not the luxury hotel in the Caribbean, I assume? Because that's real.
Yes, because a lot of times I look that up and I'll get the hotel.
We just go down there.
Yeah.
It's a cover-up.
I think it's real.
Really?
I actually think Atlantis is real because, I mean, there's so many places that people are unearthing under, sandstorms or under, places in the Middle East. Wasn't Troy,
like at a certain point, Troy, they didn't think that was real, and then they found it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, a lot of these places in the Middle East and stuff were found because they sandstorms will cover an entire area in feet and
or look at like Pompeii or whatever.
Yeah, like I really do believe that there could have been something that, honestly, I mean, just look at how Pennsylvania got flooded. I was stuck at a community center for 9 hours a couple weeks ago because of the floods and the tornadoes. And you imagine if something just happened like that on a different level. Now we have such infrastructure and sewers and storm drains and all those things. Imagine when they didn't have anywhere for this water to go to, or if a tsunami just took over. And I don't think it's like oh, we're a bunch of mermaids and sea creature people and stuff. I think it's just a city that might have been like a really nice, luxurious place, this awesome on the water place, and a tsunami just took it out, buried it, and no one's ever found it or something.
Well, it depends where you think it is, because I mean, the weather's a little bit different from back then, definitely. More storms and stuff now. And people are living in places where they, like New Orleans, where they're under the sea level, so you got to build levees and stuff. And a lot of people think Atlantis was somewhere in, like, the Mediterranean area where, it's not as... No?
No.
I thought it was like a Grecian...
If we want to...
Oh, you know what? Just tell us about Atlantis, James. You're very excited about Atlantis.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, it's just why do we care so much about it? It's because it's an older civilization. It's before the Egyptians. It's like the basis of all our modern civilizations.
Oh, it's before anything. Okay.
It's before anything. It's and apparently, it leaves a lot to the imagination. That's why we care so much, because when you're talking about mermaids and stuff like that, it leads to a lot of really great fiction. And some people look at it like it was this utopia and it's this advanced civilization that's like more advanced than anything, but there's a little bit of like a morality tale to it too, because they were conquerors and they were going around just like taking over all these other countries, and then they like met their demise by some kind of massive flood or sinking, which it gets a little complicated. We'll get into it, but I think there's earthquakes and floods involved in this story. But the question is, was it just a story, or was it a real account? And the only thing we have to go by is Plato. He wrote all this down, and was it a story? Was it to entertain, or was this actually, just like a real account? My gut instinct is that it's real, because the way he writes it out is in so much detail. So Atlantis is, the actual city of Atlantis is a bunch of rings of land and rings of water, like these concentric rings. And he describes the exact measurement of each ring and everything. And when you read it, it's so much detail, you think to yourself, like, okay, like, this doesn't sound like he's trying to entertain, because why would you need...
Oh, you think it's like too specific? Or
it's too much information. It's like the only person who would ever write that much detail is Stephen King.
Maybe
I love Stephen King, but
maybe Plato was just world building for his inevitable movie franchise, the Atlantis verse he was working on.
Exactly.
It's a branch off of the fucking the Republic or whatever.
Yeah.
It's either just some very, very detailed world building, or this is a real account. He wrote this down. Now, this was 9,000 years before Plato's time. That's what he wrote in there. So that would make it 11,000 years ago now. Now, 11,000 years ago, that's a long, long time. So I think that makes it more believable, because, of course, there'd be no evidence if it was that long ago. Like, anything that was there was wiped out in 11,000 years. Let's talk about where it is then. So all these documentaries, lots of times they put it in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Which sometimes they're saying that because they're suggesting that Plato might have been inspired by a real place. It might have been the island of Santorini, which was wiped out by volcanoes, or it was created by volcanoes. I forget which it was, but basically he's thinking of some kind of more recent catastrophe, and that's why he wrote Atlantis. But he actually explains where it is, and he goes into so much detail. First of all, it's Atlantis. So where is it? In the Atlantic. It's in the fucking Atlantic. Why are they looking for it in the Mediterranean? He actually says, let me see, I could, here, I'll read from this book here. This is actually Atlantis and the Silver City by Peter Daughtry. This is actually the best Atlantis theory I ever heard. I read this whole thing. But I'm using it right now just for some reference, because he quotes Plato here. He's got all the text. So this is the exact words of Plato. The power came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean. He's talking about the power of like the armies that were coming from Atlantis. For those days, the Atlantic was navigable. And there was an island situated in front of the straits, which by you are called the Pillars of Hercules. So the Pillars of Hercules are that like little narrow strait where you go from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic.
Like where Gibraltar is?
Yeah, it's basically, today it's known as the Strait of Gibraltar. And that's the most common accepted theory as to where the Pillars of Hercules are. I've never heard anything else. If you could tell me that the Pillars of Hercules are somewhere else, then, I'd be open to it. But from everything I've read, it's the Strait of Gibraltar. So basically, he's talking about, Plato, he's from Greece, he's from Athens. So he's talking about, he's looking out into the Atlantic. There's no way it's inside the Mediterranean. He says the island was larger than Libya and Asia put together. Now, at that time, Libya and Asia referred to some different, they weren't the exact same land masses that we know today. Like, I think Libya was all of like North Africa or something. But either way, we're talking about like a huge chunk of land. So that's where we run into a problem. And he says, and that was the way to other islands. So if you keep going, he's talking about the Americas. It says, and from there you might pass to the whole of the opposite continent, which surrounded the true ocean. So I think that's what he's talking about there, is like all of the Americas. So that's pretty crazy that he's already mentioning that stuff. So yeah, so that's where we need to be looking, is right outside the Straits of Gibraltar. And here's where this book helped me out a lot, because for the longest time I figured a giant island, like a continent-sized island, like for it to sink, that's a pretty hard thing to not be able to find, you know what I mean? And also it doesn't really match when you put the plates all together, you know what I mean? When you put Africa and South America all together and you see how everything originally lined
like
up.
Pangea.
Yeah, it just doesn't match. There's no way there could be something that big out there. This book is what really opened up the doors, because there was a mistranslation, is what he suggests, is that basically the island was larger than Libya and Asia put together. I mean, here he says that it was the word was actually greater. Plato may have meant of much greater importance as a power, not in size. So because, this was translated from Greek to Latin, there's so many things that could have went wrong. So basically what Peter Daughtry suggests is that Plato was not referring to a huge island bigger than Libya and Asia combined, but a peninsula that was bigger than any existing at that time, in which he understood as Libya and Asia, two of the largest other landmasses known to him that he could cite in comparison. That's another thing, is that island and peninsula, that was another mistranslation that he suggests, is that Plato was actually talking about a peninsula. So this is the Iberian Peninsula. This is right underneath like Spain and Portugal. There was more land underneath that, and we know that there actually was a fault line. There is a fault line there, and that there was earthquakes, and lots of this land kind of sunk away as the ages went on. So that's where I think Atlantis is right. It was right underneath Spain and Portugal. Now, he suggests, this is where he kind of loses me a little bit. Now, he does back it up with lots of measurements and everything. He thinks that the actual city of Atlantis is not submerged right now. It's actually the current, the location is the current city of Sylves. And if you follow the Arade River, that was the original like canal that ran into the concentric rings of water and land. So that was the way into Atlantis. And, he backs it up, and he even says that there are remains of some of the embankments around there. That's the part I'm really unsure about. I'm like, why does it have to be there? There's still a lot of places I feel like it could be. But, I mean, this guy definitely did his research.
He wrote a book.
He wrote a whole book, yeah. And it's a good book. I definitely recommend it. It's the best theory I ever heard, and it makes it all seem like it finally makes sense. And he uses everything that Plato says. Like, he doesn't disregard anything like a lot of these documentaries do.
What if he meant Florida? That's a peninsula.
Yeah.
That's a swampy hellhole.
And it is across the Atlantic. It is outside of the Straits, but it's a little bit too far, I think. I have seen a lot of really good theories that are interesting theories, I have to say. I mean, they don't all check out, but Greenland was Atlantis. Antarctica, which is submerged in water. It's frozen, but and also I saw a really good one that it's South America. Because he does talk about how it's like the way to other islands, how like South America's kind of tethered to North America.
Into the Caribbean and stuff.
Yeah. But I've seen it, some people matched it to Bolivia, in South America and like, you know, even done the measurements, because there's a lot more to it. There's like a mountain, there's plains.
But how are they crossing the Atlantic back then with the ships they had?
It's too far, right? Yeah, that's like the only thing that doesn't check out. So, it's like Iberian Peninsula. It's somewhere under where the earthquakes were. You know, I feel like there's more to this, though, because here, check this out. I feel like, you know, the idea of things being mistranslated opens up a lot of doors. And there's a lot more in this that I think is worth looking into because...
I mean, in terms of mistranslation, you see, you know, even today, people misquoting or whatever for like the Bible, because that was, you know, made in Greek and then Latin and then English and all that. Like, you know, there's a lot of things where things shift in flight, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's also, too, just like with anything, like people on the internet or tabloids and, you know, news sources and stuff just filling in gaps on
like if you're looking for something, you're gonna find it.
People just will make shit up and just if it gets published, it's like that's just the way it is.
Yeah. So this line really intrigues me. This is from Plato. But afterwards there occurred violent earthquakes and floods, and in a single day and night of misfortune all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth, and the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea. So it sounds like he could be talking about two different events. Because where's this battle taking place? Is it taking place on Atlantis? I don't think so. I think this is more like taking place in like somewhere near Athens, which in that case would support this sinking happening in the Mediterranean. Maybe like it happened on some battleground, on some landmass that wasn't Atlantis. But then again, Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea. So Atlantis also sank. So there must have been a lot of shit going on back then.
Yeah, but when would... So history-wise, let's say it's the, you know, negative like 11,000 BC.
Yeah, or it would make it 9,000 BC.
9,000,
basically about 9,000 BC, so 11,000 years ago.
Who was fighting back then?
Well, apparently, according to Plato, it was Atlantis was trying to conquer all these other countries within
city-states and stuff.
Yeah, like within the Mediterranean, and then Athens fought back against them, like the armies of Athens.
Is Athens that old?
I believe so. I mean, if Plato wrote this, he could have been like, and this supports the theory that it was made up, is that he could have wrote it just to make Athens seem more like
badass.
The hero, right? Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I don't know too much about anthropology and all that kind of stuff,
and neither do I. You know, but
but I know most of the ancient civilizations were around fertile areas. So like the Euphrates River, and there's also in China, and like I don't think that area was fully like dug into yet.
It was like the Mesopotamians and then Babylonians.
Yeah, they had like two harsh winters. They didn't have the technology to like, you know, maybe they had this ultimate army, but like you need food and crops and all sorts of stuff. Like it kind of falls apart when you start looking at all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the same time, like we were talking last time, well, it got brought up, but the whole thing about like the Bering Strait, where that was originally a land bridge that was just covered in water over time and everything, and maybe Antarctica was way bigger than it was, and it, you know, part of that flooded over it. The earthquakes could have tumbled it into the ground, especially because I mean, back geological events that happened back then were but a lot more intense than they are now.
If you're
most
Plato
of the time.
or even Atlantis, you're not getting to Antarctica.
Yeah, it just seems too far, right?
Oh, it's a hike. I'm not getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Greeks did also map the circumference of the world, like, based on just math and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, because now I'd have to look more into, like, when was the world really mapped out? And, like, maybe it was, because I do feel like in this book, because, you know, I read the whole thing, but I don't remember every single thing. I do remember him talking something about how the Greeks mapped a lot of the world back then. Well, he heard it from the Egyptians, actually, because he heard it from, because this is more translation, more error that could happen, but he heard it from his grandfather, who heard it from a friend, who got it from an Egyptian priest. So
that sounds pretty...
Well, there's all those things, too, about like how they just knew, you know, they were... mapping stars and constellations, and the pyramids have at certain times of day perfect alignment and.
Well, the pyramids of Giza apparently match with the 3 stars that are in the belt of Orion.
Yeah.
Because one of them is like a little off. It's not a perfect line. Anyway, more clues for Atlantis are probably to be found in Egypt. And so far, I think there's been nothing. It's just Plato's text, and that's it. So, going by just the word of one man, it's a hard thing. But with all the detail he puts in there, I just think it's probably something that was real. What do you guys think?
Plato, more like Play-Doh. Fucking liar. I don't know. Like, it definitely makes sense that if there was a lost city of Atlantis, it would be in another city-state or civilization that went under because of a natural disaster, and you wouldn't find stuff after so many years of, bullshit. But to be the power that it is, it makes more sense that he was trying to pull like a political thing for Athens and whatnot, considering they wanted that to be the glorious republic and everything. But
it could have been too some guys like, oh yeah, Plato, well, where are these fucking Atlanteans or whatever? And he's like, oh no, they're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and
they died.
The exact measurements of this place are this. And there's well, what about blah blah blah? And it's like he just kept coming up with answers.
One lie.
Plato's just a super good bullshitter like the entire time. No, but I did have a teacher who told us, like, he said that, because the Romans, when they came in and they were just blowing shit up most of the time, and they went into Greece and just burned most of their stuff. And I had a teacher who was like, yeah, if they didn't do that, we probably would have a space program in the 1700s.
Oh,
we wouldn't be like where we are now because
it's like
years later,
the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah,
and
there was so many things that
Wow.
they knew that and technology that could have been found back then, and we would have been hundreds of years ahead. But the Romans came in and were like, let's blow it up, and they just blew everything up and burned shit and all that kind of stuff or something.
So the issue with the Greeks, and I say this a lot about the ancient Greeks, they were too busy figuring shit out, math, science, technology, but not really applying it.
Yeah.
They were just kind of doing it for the sake of, look what I discovered. Pythagoras, great job there. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
Come up with something else.
I'm going to draw a bunch of triangles and tell you how big the hypotenuse is.
It was more about like the mental state,
thanks,
but like
dude.
that didn't really get pushed on the stuff.
They also, I mean, their architecture was pretty crazy at the time. I mean, also carving stone is crazy. Just how they, it's kind of crazy how people were just able to do that kind of shit back then. And nowadays we have all this extra technology, and people still suck at like doing things like graphic design and shit like that.
Well, they can't. They keep looking for Atlantis in the Mediterranean. So look where he actually explains it in the fucking pages. I don't know. I'm not an archaeologist.
But you're pro. So you're pro Atlantis as an ancient civilization, but not a magical place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's
agree with
anything
that.
magical about it. Like some people say it was aliens, and like there's a million things.
How do you feel about the Aquaman connection?
Oh, the Aquaman connection. Well, I mean, that's what it's made for. It's like the imagination you could put into this. Like when I think Atlantis, I think of like all the different pieces of fiction where they find it, like Captain Nemo in Mysterious Island. You picture it as this sunken city, even though it seems like, I mean, what Peter Daughtry thinks is that it's in the city of Sylves, and it's which is not sunken anymore, but I guess at one point there was a flood. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably real.
What about the lost city of Atlanta from Futurama?
Oh.
It's like they're Atlantis now.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's under Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And that's why it's cursed. You know? Could be that.
Yeah.
Could be.
Bermuda Triangle is another theory. And that's a whole other thing we can get into too sometime.
Yeah, the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah. So let us know what you think. Is it fucking real?
Dun dun dun.
Next time, UFOs.
All right. But I guess it's time to move into our Q&A.
All right.
This is from, there's some emojis. Partly Sunny, Lulipop, Partly Sunny at Lulipop36. Has a video game story ever made any of you cry or something like that? Same question with movies.
did the person mean like a story as in like the story within the game, or a story associated with playing the game?
I guess you could do both for this.
Both?
It's
Okay.
vague, but I think they mean the video game's narrative.
Oh, okay. The one that comes to mind, actually, off the top of my head, I mean, there's probably a lot of others, but the part in Zelda: Link to the Past when he has to play the flute to the ghost of the boy in like the grove. And like, because the boy used to play the flute to the animals. I forget what the whole story was, but the mom has the flute and like tells Link to go to the grove to play it. And there's just something about that really makes me cry. Adam, Square Painter, he did a painting of that scene just recently. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's mine.
Mine's kind of weird. But Gears of War 2 and 3.
Really?
Yeah. In the first, so Gears of War is always seen as like this bro shooter game, but when you get to the second one, the one guy Dom, who's player 2, if you're playing, and like the cool thing about it was like the co-op was player 2 and player 1 is like Lance and Bill. Like neither one is really player 2. They're both very important, and actually Dom had more actual development than what's his name, Marcus did. But Dom's wife is a character that is always, he's trying to find his wife. She was captured by the Locust Horde, which is the enemy army, and you get into this underground area where it's like the Locust base, and you find his wife, and there's this scene where she comes out of this like torture machine. And she comes out and she's in her dress and everything, and he sees her and he's like, oh my God, Maria, and he goes and he hugs her, and then it cuts around him and she's all fucked up looking. She's in she's all like bald and she's scarred and everything, and she's just completely catatonic. And it's like when you first get her, you're like, oh my God, she's okay, everything's cool. And then it turns out like, no, she's gone. Like and basically Dom has to kill her. And you don't see it happen. You see it like off the side, but that part hit me. And then in the third game, Dom is just distraught, and it's like after the second game, everything's kind of fucked up, and you're basically like the Gears are all like refugees now. They're just going wherever they can because most of the world is destroyed. And Dom eventually, spoiler alert if you haven't played it, but there's this part where there's no way out. Like they're basically all gonna die, and Dom sacrifices himself. And when you play all those games, they're excellent games too. When Dom dies, it's a huge hit. It was one of the first times, like even talking about it now, I'm actually getting like kind of like goosebumps and stuff. But that game was seriously, I couldn't believe it because he was in all the games, and this was over the course of. The first game was 2006. Gears of War 3 was 2011 or 12, I think. And I remember like playing through that. And then the thing is afterwards, you just pick up as the next character, who I believe was Jace, who was still pretty cool. But it's like you've been playing as Dom for now, 3 games, and for such a huge character to just be killed off, and in such a like very meaningful way though too, because he was totally like he was just gone throughout most of the game, and it was the character progression was really, really good. Gears of War is extremely a complex game. If people think it's just a shooter, it's actually way more. The story is excellent.
Gotcha.
I would say that.
Cry. The end of Metal Gear Solid 3.
Wow. That's a good one too. Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When after you find, at the graveyard, you find out the
whole Patriot, you find out
the voiceover,
and
the music.
They fucked you over completely in the game too, pretty much, and like it turns out.
And that fucking end credits music, that's some good shit right there.
Yeah, Metal Gear 3 was excellent.
And I don't care who knows it. I cried at the end of Armageddon.
Yeah?
Even now, when Bruce Willis sacrifices himself, he's a fucking patriot. I don't know about any movies for you guys.
I mean, Terminator 2.
Oh.
Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's a good
into
one.
Into the metal is hard to watch.
And then he gives the thumbs up.
The thumbs up is just it just rips your heart even further out.
Finger?
Yeah. And then honestly, the newest one, fucking Endgame. I won't, just in case somebody hasn't seen it. Endgame, when we went and saw it in theaters, because we saw it at Newt's Theater back then, and I was in my chair like I was holding it in the whole time at the end of it. Yeah. Right. Oh my God. And the whole like I love you 3000 thing killed me. I was just like, oh my God.
No.
Oh, I felt nothing on that. I think, but it was just, I don't know.
The thing with me was those characters that they had in Marvel were, I grew up watching like all those cartoons, and seeing them on the big screen for me was like the biggest deal I'd ever seen in movies. Seeing Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and Spider-Man and X-Men, all of that was mind-blowing to me, because I never thought I would ever see movies of X-Men when I was watching the 90s X-Men cartoon or the Spider-Man cartoon. I never would have thought that. You'd think they would have
made those movies sooner.
Yeah, like with Batman, I could understand Batman. It was, Batman's been around for how many, but Spider-Man and the X-Men never felt like they had such wide popularity. And when I remember when I first saw the marquee for X-Men, and it was just the X, and it didn't say any words. It just said when it was coming out. And I was just like, are they fucking making an X-Men movie? Because, I couldn't look it up.
Batman 89, it was that logo. And it was like in Times Square, and it was everywhere. Like the big Batman logo.
Yeah.
The yellow and black colors. It was
Plus two, following like a movie franchise for 10 years, and then where it ends, like being there with all the characters. And, I still marathon the Marvel movies to this day.
Took you that many movies to make you cry? Michael Bay did it in one with Armageddon. Who's the better filmmaker?
Okay, crying at a movie though, really the most. We did a review of it on Rental Reviews. It was Born Free.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I think that's the title of the video too. Was like the only movie that made me like actually cry. Born Free. So check out our review, or even better, check out the movie.
Yeah. Born Free was great. That was actually a really it was. I was watching it, getting choked up a little bit too. It is.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Yeah.
Next one. This is from Lost Between Worlds at Lost Between One. Any movie reviews that have never got to see the light of day, but are stored somewhere in the Cinemassacre vaults?
Yes.
Yeah,
there are a few of them.
There's rental reviews episodes that we never put out too.
There's 4 rental reviews.
We did a lot of them that just we didn't finish, and some of them had guests actually. So I think you will see those soon, sometime.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Because I think when we stopped rental reviews, it was like we had a bunch of them in progress. And then since we stopped the show and it wasn't consistent.
Because we were sprinkling the guest episodes through stuff, and it felt weird having a guest episode during COVID, without putting, we filmed this before, because then people would attack us for filming together without masks, but we shot it earlier. That was weird.
I mean, it was a weird time, and still it's kind of iffy, but we're at the moment we're okay. So a lot of those ones that had guests will probably post sometime soon. Because we did one with Scott the Woz. Well, we posted one of the Scott the Woz ones.
Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah.
Any other movie reviews that you have in the can?
Oh, that
outside of rental reviews
that have been shot.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh no, I mean anything that I've shot personally has already been released. But there's been a lot on the list that I plan to do or that I'm hoping to do.
I know that.
But none that have actually begun.
Yeah, because I know the only lost rental review episode that we can't get back is we tried doing the anime Perfect Blue, but I believe someone's mic wasn't working or something got messed up. So we just
hated the movie.
So. Well, there's that too. Well, do you hate Black Swan? Because they ripped it off for that.
I never saw it.
Oh, really? Yeah. But yeah, so there's 4, but they're all rental reviews.
I don't know if it's that I hate it or I just didn't get it. I was like, this is weird. This is a really
It's a weird movie.
Yeah.
This is the last question. It's from Code Duck at Code Tweeting. Has making AVGN episodes become a chore? I feel as if the episodes have adopted a certain format and try to fit into that format more often than not. I still enjoy the show, but I sometimes wonder if it's a passion project or perhaps it's turned into something else. Much love, less than 3.
Do the videos feel like chores?
Have making AVGN episodes become a chore?
Has making AVGN become a chore? Are they passion projects or not? Is basically the question.
It's kind of a run-on sentence, but
I'm just summarizing it because it was kind of long.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. It's not a chore when we we make sure that it's not. It would be a chore if we allow it to become the same thing every single time. So it's important to change it up, keep it fresh, keep it interesting for us, keep it fun. If we didn't do that, then yeah, it would certainly become a chore. So we do everything we can. That's why we do make it a passion project. But it's kind of like a back and forth. It's like, okay, well, we got to get one out right now. So this one's got to be simpler, but the next one's going to be more of like put a lot of effort into this one.
Yeah, like the Commodore one was ridiculous. The effort that went into that.
Commodore was. But what the situation we're in now is we have like a bunch of complicated ones in a row, because there's the Commodore episode, which is episode 198. 199 is the Halloween episode, and then we all know what's next is 200. And wow, we got to take it one at a time. But I would love to start working on 200 right now. But we have this Halloween one to finish up first. So
because I think sometimes with
and too many games, and the Rex Viper playing my first rock concert ever.
Come the too many games 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to do that too.
Yeah, we have way too much shit going on right now.
But for me, like, to answer that kind of question, especially from 2020 and 2021, sometimes you kind of have to pull the what do you even call it? Like the positivity or the passion from one to put into another, or because we put so much into Vegas Stakes, but no matter how much work and effort we put in that one, it did not as good as like the 3DO episode, which we put less, which was more of a chore to make if in terms of that, but it did better. So like you never know with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you never know, because sometimes you'll work really hard on an I know we're going on a tangent now, but I'll just keep going. I think we answered the question, but you know how it is. We just talk and talk. Like sometimes you'll work really hard on an episode and you think you did a really good job on it and you really love this one, and then people won't like that one as much. Other times you do one where you're taking a risk, where like the Vegas episode, I think the official title is Fear and Loathing in Vegas Stakes. Vegas Stakes is the name of the game that was reviewed, but it also reviewed Roadrunner on Super Nintendo and LSD on PlayStation, which is one of the weirdest games ever. So there's a bunch of reviews in that. It's kind of like the old Christmas Carol episode that had Shaq Fu and Home Alone. It was like a mix. It was a compilation review. So the Vegas episode was like the biggest episode of the entire year. And that one, I knew I was taking a risk with it because I do most of the video is done in a Hunter S. Thompson impression, where I'm sort of playing another character. I'm playing the nerd, playing Hunter S. Thompson, playing Raoul Duke. It's kind of complicated. So I knew that the people who would love that episode the best are the ones who would understand the reference. People who have seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or read the book. But it's so much more too. It's all about, this nostalgia for video games, and the way I put it all together into this story was really important to me, and I put a lot of passion into that episode. And yeah, I mean, it did good, but it wasn't the most viewed episode of the year. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it was definitely the most work I put into an episode of the year.
Yeah, that one definitely took a while. But I think especially next year, we're going to put more time into it. Like the episodes will be monthly, not bi-monthly every once in a while. So we'll have
once a month.
We'll definitely have more
twice a month
commitment towards it. Mm-hmm. And, we have the weekly podcast, and then hopefully something else when, on a Friday when we're not doing that. But especially a lot more reviews and fun things and stuff. But, right now everything's being put in the Monster Madness, which starts next week. Check it out on the website.
Yeah, Too Brutal for YouTube.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, we'll be at Too Many Games playing Rex Viper live and having panels and talking to people and stuff. So come see us there.
Oh, yeah. First convention since the pandemic. I mean, this is a huge milestone. Like, this is a big deal, like what's coming up. But it's going to be great to meet the fans again. I think we're going to have to be all masked up, just so you know.
Yeah.
This is a big deal, doing a convention again, but I'm really excited to get out there and see the people again, finally.
And you have a panel, too.
I have a panel, with my buddy Marsh March of the Dark.
Or the world's hardest
it's
trivia.
World's Hardest Trivia, and we're giving away prizes.
He was funny on that Green Dog episode.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah. So the Green Dog episode probably in a long enough timeline will do better than Vegas Stakes, and it's about a guy screaming on a TV about Guantanamo Bay. Great job, everybody.
Yeah.
But let's round it out.
All right, and we're heading into the Halloween season. Check out Monster Madness.
Yeah, and see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Cinemassacre Podcast. See you next Tuesday. Check out more episodes at cinemassacre.com or wherever you fill up your ear holes with podcasts. Remember to like this episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below.